Hi everyone, very good morning from Strasbourg. It's been 10 years coming, but finally the end of roaming is here. This means you can call, text and use data across the EU for the same price as you would at home. We're joined by the lead member on roaming in the Parliament, Spanish member Pilar del Castillo. Very warm welcome.
Good morning.
We've been getting a lot of comments from you already. Before we go on to our discussion, Jana has some quick announcements. Jana?
Good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. We are waiting for your questions, but I would like also to ask you to turn on the sound on your devices and subscribe on our page so that you can follow the future Facebook Lives. Back to you, Jim.
So a first quick question, Ms. Del Castillo. For those of our followers maybe who are just tuning in for a few minutes, can you give us a brief overview of what the end of roaming entails?
Well, it entails not to be surcharged as it was till now, till today, for a long time. So that means that you can, as you said, use phone calls and text and through friends to data without any extra charge. So that's the end of roaming indeed.
So there's already a lot of enthusiasm on our Facebook page. Giacomo Broglio from Italy and Tsetan Chekov from Sofia in Bulgaria both say finally, but they ask, why did it take so long? Parliament has been working on this for about a decade now. Was there a lot of resistance and difficulties needed to be overcome?
Well, what it was a legislation that gradually has been decreasing the prices that was applied in those surcharges. But then after 10 years of, let's say, decreasing, there was a moment in which Parliament took the initiative and said, okay, that's the moment we have to abolish these extra charges. And the moment was that, and now we are here. So it was a long process because, that was gradually a way of going on. But finally, we managed to be here.
And in terms of resistance, what resistance needed to be
well, when we were negotiating with in Parliament and in mostly with Council, this end of roaming, there was different position that was some of those not so much keen of going definitely in the abolition of roaming. Just they were more in favor of just keep it again in a gradual manner till in end. We didn't know when the end could be. I must say, of course, for company is not excellent to know that you cannot get this return, this from the surcharges. But there is a national markets which are very different. It's not the same market in the Baltic countries that in the south. The movement of people is totally different. We have a lot of tourism in the south for holidays, not so much on the other direction. So all these factors create a situation which was not very much homogeneous and more difficult for taking a decision. So, but the important thing is that finally we are here, and there is really the end of roaming.
Some more quick comments we've already received on Facebook overnight. Enzo Landini from Piacenza, he says, excellent news, thanks EU. Chris Kinsella says, I'm an Irish guy living on the Belgian-French border, good news. Chris Hen says, finally, communication is key in bringing Europeans together. And Teodora Stoyanova is from Bulgaria but lives in Wales and says, this is why I love the EU. I mean, you've worked in it a long time. How do you feel?
Yeah, I must say that the end of roaming is a perfect example. How the European Union must go on, how the European Union really get the prestige, how the European Union, why the European Union, it is important for people. We must, go in a way of concrete solutions, of concrete decisions that solve problems for all the people in the European Union, for all the SMEs, for all the startups, and so on and so forth. And this is a perfect example how a concrete decision can benefit to so many.
concrete solutions to the problems of Europeans. It sounds exactly like a quote from Robert Schuman, actually.
Indeed.
One final question from Jörg Wilkens from Luxembourg before we move on to Jana. He mentions that people who don't roam will now be disadvantaged as their domestic charges will be increased. He says it's effectively punishment, and it finances people who have the means to travel a lot. Alexandra Bilkane also asks whether the price of local services, domestic services, will be increased.
I mean, not at all. Not at all. There will not. There is not a need to have a connection between the end of roaming and any changes in the tariffs at home. There is not any reason for that. Together with with the Commission and Parliament and the Council, we are going to monitor periodically how is the impact of this end of roaming in general and in domestic tariffs. There will be the Commission has to present a report, a review to Parliament and to Council to evaluate to what extent there is any unintended consequences or intended indeed consequences, any kind of consequences on that. But I mean that will be, if the case, any exceptionality. But you can be sure that there is not and cannot, we cannot have any relationship between any adjustment at domestic level and roaming charges. In fact, through the last 10 years, roaming charges were gradually going down, and domestic prices at the same time were gradually going down as well. There was not any correlation, if a positive correlation, both were going down.
I believe as recently as 1998 it was about €1.70 a minute to call.
Yeah.
Jana, any more live comments, questions?
We have lots of comments. I will read some of them. So Amy from Ireland says, thanks for getting rid of roaming charges. People look very excited. Lipa says, it's a small yet vital step for all Europeans. Every step forward is important because it strengthens the union and brings hope to the people. Also, Ervis says that we're better together and stronger. So I think we can go back to you, and I'll keep.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jana. We have another question was sent to us last night from a Facebook follower. David Allen Roden asks whether it will be limited to 90 days in a 180-day period. Is that true? Is there a time limit?
No. That was a previous. Possibility that was managed, and how to implement the decision taken by Parliament in the negotiation with Council in the end of roaming. But just some ideas for the implementation that never went through.
Yeah.
So that was not at all the case.
So no time limit.
No time limits.
Roaming charges will also be
the time limit. I must say, the time limit. We are talking about roaming.
Yes.
If you go to another country and you live there, you are in another situation.
Exactly.
You are not in a roaming situation.
Yeah.
So this is the time limit. The time limit is that you stay abroad for let's say months or more or less, and then you consume even more than you are at home. Then you are in a non-roaming situation.
Exactly.
Then there's the possibility for you, company with the one you have the contract, to say, okay, where are you exactly? But you are living there or not, and then there is a dialogue that you have to have with your company. But this is something that is thought for roamers,
yes.
For the people that go for a while, for holidays, for work, or for whatever other reason they go. But this is for roaming. I think, I am sure that everyone has this very clear, that is for roaming.
So this week we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Erasmus program. That's an example where if somebody goes to study abroad for 6 months or 9 or 10 months, they should buy a local SIM card.
I think what people do in those cases is immediately either they stay longer.
A bit of a technical problem there. We're back live with you with Spanish member Pilar del Castillo. We're discussing the end of roaming, which has come today. You can travel across the European Union and no extra cost for calls, using data, sending text messages. We'll continue where we were going on.
Continue, that's
Mr.
perfect,
Castillo.
yes.
The next question we had was from Leo Bernstein. So I know that roaming will be also eliminated in Iceland, Liechtenstein,
in the
and Norway.
area.
But what about Switzerland?
Well, the case of Switzerland is not, because it is not a country member of the EE area, so that will not be included for the moment. I mean, later on we'll see, but they're not now.
So no end at the moment for Switzerland. Jana, have we got some live questions?
Yes, we have questions. So we have one question from Maria. She's asking when it will be extended to Norway. And we have another question from Nicholas, who says that my provider will charge £100 for every extra gigabyte outside of allowance when in the EU. Does this conform to the new laws?
So on Norway, does it enter into force immediately for Norway?
Yeah, because it's part of the EU area, so that will be at the same time that all country members of the European Union, so that should not be more problem. Maybe a bit delayed, but no more than a really big delay, but will enter, which is the important thing. That's clear.
And there was a question about £100 surcharge on people's tariffs. We've got a lot of comments from the United Kingdom actually. People who are also concerned about Brexit. If Brexit does happen in 2019 as planned, what is that?
Well, this is unknown for the moment. That will be how Brexit in the end, it's solved. So for the moment, till the 2019, that will be not the case because they are full members. We'll see, but that will depend very much on the whole story on how Brexit finally is decided, which way and with conditions and so on and so forth.
And the negotiations will get underway next week, I believe. So that's another issue on the table, along with everything else. Jana, you have another question, right?
Lots of questions. I don't know what to ask first. So let's go. Let's take a question from Rosa. Rosa is asking, did I understand correctly that calling Polish mobile with French SIM card from France, I pay extra charges? Calling from a Polish mobile with French SIM card from Belgium, that's complicated I think to listen, I don't pay extra charges, of course, while living in France and going abroad for short holidays. And the question here, will owner of Polish mobile pay extra fees in both or one of the two cases?
Can you,
so there was a question there about a Polish person with a Polish SIM card who is in Belgium.
Yes, calling from a Polish mobile with a French SIM card.
Okay, so okay, well, the situation there is
kind of
having a Polish...
It's complicated.
Situation. Normally, I think people go abroad with the kind of simple, way of they have the mobile, the contract, or they buy a card in the country they are visiting, and
so the situation there is that the person has a Polish mobile with a French SIM card. That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter because they have a French SIM card. What is
and they're in Belgium.
So that's doesn't matter. Yes.
We also got some questions about people who are not traveling. So I know Robert Sideritz asked it, for example. What about calls from one's own country to another EU country? If I have a French SIM card and I'm calling from Strasbourg to across the river in Germany.
Yeah, but then it is not, the case of the roaming story. This is what is considered an international call. So this is not under the scope of this decision and this legislation for roaming. That's a different thing.
So roaming means traveling, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jana?
We have one more nice question. So what about people living near borders and getting a much cheaper contract or prepaid card in another country than they would have in their own?
Well, in principle, if he's living, in a country, although they can buy in the border the other one, they have to clarify, because then you have to leave. You have to have a contract in a country with an operator, and then you are traveling, and then you have roaming like at home. So that's dependent. It is you are not living there. Yes.
Brilliant. So maybe one more question. I know there's a fair use policy.
Yes.
What does this entail exactly?
Well, the fair use policy, it is regarding the use of those that try to use this new situation, a new legislation for other goals that to be traveling, being traveler and use their own phone with the same contract that they have at home. For example, those that can try to buy SIM cards with very cheap in some, or could be very cheap in some places, and they are trying to use it as the normal way to communicate when they come back to their own country. So this is something which is not, and then in those cases the operators can try to see what is going on in a particular case like that.
Brilliant. Some more comments that we got overnight. Naomi Moreno says, thank you for making this possible. Now moving around the EU, calling, accessing data is accessible to everyone. Frank says it's long overdue. Cosman and Ben both say thank you to the Parliament. And Sebastian Sonnenberg from Vienna says it's a great change. We've lots of comments, people saying it's awesome, it's brilliant news. A lot of people are very excited. Jana, have you got some more comments before we wrap up?
More questions. I will read just some comments. So Reni from Sofia says, hello, we are on the border and we are looking and working for our great EU future. There's another question from Nazia. She's asking, before 2019, can we get advantage of free roaming in London?
So roaming in the United Kingdom, as of today, it's finished.
As of today, it's finished when the UK leave the European Union.
Yeah.
So that will depends on the kind of final solution for the whole story.
Exactly.
They agree in the negotiation between the European Union and UK. So that's we cannot really say exactly how will we, in that sense, work in the roaming there or not, because that will depend on many other decisions, and that we must wait and see.
Brilliant. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We've only addressed a small number of your questions. We've gotten a lot. Our team in Brussels are continuing to monitor your comments, so they will respond. Thank you very much, Ms. Del Castillo.
Thank you very much. I think it's a great day. It's a success story that the European Union show how we can, as I said, and you said, Schuman said, exactly. How Schuman said that the way is to really go with concrete things, concrete solutions, and this is a concrete solution, and we can really be happy with this.
We've also had in recent weeks the vote on the so-called Netflix, Spotify regulation for streaming, and I mean it's just one more step in the creation of a digital single market. Yeah, exactly.
This is one step forward in the development of the digital single market. This is really a contribution for the free movement of circulation of people, goods and services. It helps because it's not only people, the one that will have more facilities, because they have not to pay for that, but as I said, also the business sector, thinking there's, in the small companies, I think on startups, I think the people that want to, develop their own business all through the European Union, the digital single market, and this is an excellent contribution to go in that direction.
Brilliant. So thank you very much again for tuning in. If you have any more questions, you can also check out our Europarl website where there's information on roaming. Stay tuned next week. We'll have a live for World Refugee Day on the 20th of June. And that's all for us from now from Strasbourg. Don't go anywhere though. We have a video coming up next on the end of roaming. So stay tuned. Thank you, Jana. Thank you, Ms. Del Castillo.
Thank you. Real pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.